Stair Construction, Unit 2, Lesson 1. Compensating for different flooring thicknesses. Upon completing this unit, you will be able to calculate total finished rise, be able to calculate and lay out the bottom riser height, and be able to lay out the top riser and locate the top of the stringer. The first step is to calculate the total finished rise. When stairs are ready to be built, the site is usually in the framing stage of construction. The lower floor and upper floors will be framed and subflooring will be applied on top of the joists. Using your laser level, measure the distance from the top of the lower subfloor to the top of the upper subfloor. We will call this measurement the subfloor to subfloor rise. If all the finished flooring materials are the same thickness, then this measurement is also the total finished rise. However, the materials may vary from the lower floor to the upper floor, and we will need to perform an additional calculation to determine the total finished rise. We start with the measurement that we took from the subfloor to subfloor. Then we subtract the lower finished flooring material thickness. That's the thickness of the material that will be applied on the lower floor. For example, 1/2 inch carpet or 3/4 inch hardwood, whatever that material thickness is, that's what you subtract. Then we add the upper floor material thickness. Again, that's just the thickness of the material that gets applied to the upper floor. That we perform that calculation, and that will give us our total finished rise. In this example, we've measured our subfloor to subfloor to be 30 inches exactly. On the lower floor, we have 1.25" tile to be installed at a later time. On the upper floor, we have 3/4 inch hardwood that will be installed at a later time. Based on our formula, we start with our 30 inches, which we measured subfloor to subfloor. We subtract the tile that's on the lower floor at 1.25 inches, and then we add back in the upper floor material thickness of 3/4 inch. This gives us a total finished rise of 29.5 inches. That is the dimension that we will use to calculate and design our stair. Here's how we're going to build our stair. As I mentioned in the previous slide, we have 3/4 inch hardwood going on the top floor. We have 1.25 inch thick tile going on the bottom floor. On our stairs, we have 3/4 inch finished risers and 3/4 inch sub risers. And on the treads, we will have a 1 inch thick hardwood finished tread, and then we will also install a 3/4 inch thick sub tread. We will also include a 3/4 inch thick plywood hanger board, but that will not affect our rise or our bottom riser height calculations. It will, however, affect our total run. We measure our total run from the face of the hanger board to the front edge or the bottom riser, face of the bottom riser of the stringer. That total run will allow us to accurately locate the kicker board, which is a crucial step in installing and test fitting our stair. Again, our total run, which we calculate in the next step, is from the face of the hanger board to the front riser of the stringer. So here are our calculations for this stair. We start with our total finished rise of 29.5 inches. We take the 29.5 and we divide by our maximum rise, which for residential construction, our maximum is 7 3/4. that gives us a quantity of risers of 3.8, which we round up to 4 risers. So the quantity of risers is 4. Then we can calculate our unit rise by taking our total finished rise, 29 1/2 inches, and dividing by our quantity of risers. This gives us a unit rise of 7 3/8 inches. For our unit run, we're going to use our standard residential run of 10 inches. Our total run will be our unit run of 10 inches times the quantity of treads. Since we have 4 risers, we are going to have 1 less tread than the number of risers, so we have 3 treads. So 10-inch unit run times 3 treads gives us a total run of 30 inches. For the stringer length, we will use our Construction Master calculator, and we will enter the following: 29 1/2 inch rise, 40-inch run. We add the additional 10-inch of the phantom run to our total run to calculate our stringer length, and then hit the diagonal button. You should get a stringer length that is 49 11/16 inches. Then to calculate our pitch length, which is the diagonal dimension of 1 unit rise and 1 unit run, we take our stringer length of 49 11/16 and divide by our quantity of risers, in this case 4, to give us a pitch length of 12 7/16. Now we can calculate our bottom riser height. Our unit rise is 7 3/8 inches. We should be able to measure this 7 3/8 inch unit rise from the top of the tile on the lower floor to the top of the first finished tread. To get there, we use the following formula. We start with our unit rise, in this case 7 3/8 inches, and then we'll add our lower finished flooring material thickness, and then we'll subtract the total thickness of our treads, which includes the sub-tread and the finished tread. This will give us our bottom riser height. Here again we have our example, and we will calculate our bottom riser height. We will start with our unit rise of 7 3/8 inches. From there we want to add the 1 1/4 inch tile on the lower floor and subtract the combined tread thickness of our treads. Remember, our treads are 3/4 inch sub-tread and a 1 inch finished tread. 7 3/8 plus 1 1/4 minus 1 3/4 gives us a 6 7/8 inch bottom riser height. Note that this is the same process as we did when we dropped our stringer in the original lab that did not have material thickness variations. In that lab, we simply subtracted the thickness of the finished tread. The next step is to calculate the distance from the top of the stringer to the upper subfloor. We want to know exactly where the top of the stringer should be landing on the hanger board. Since we're usually installing the stringers before the finished flooring materials are installed, we have to measure from the top of the upper subfloor. To calculate that distance, we can use the following formula. Again, we'll start with our unit rise. From there, we'll add the sub-tread and finished tread combined thicknesses, and we'll subtract the upper floor finished flooring material thickness. This will give us the distance from the upper subfloor to the top of the stringer. The second way to lay out the distance from the top of the stringer to the upper subfloor is to use the story pole method. To use this method, you want to hold the end of your tape up by the thickness of your finished flooring material thickness that will be installed on the upper floor. Then we are going to measure down by the unit rise and make a mark. That mark will represent the top of your finished tread. So to review, as you hold your tape up by the thickness of the upper floor material thickness, that represents the top of the upper floor, and then measuring down 1 unit rise to the top of the finished tread. From there, we measure down the thickness of the finished tread and make another mark, in this case 1 inch. That represents the top of the subtread. And again, we measure down by the thickness of the subtread, 3/4 of an inch, and make another mark. That last mark should be the top of the stringer. Here is that same process using the formula from previously. Start with your unit rise, 7 3/8 inches. Add your tread materials, your 3/4 inch subtread plus your 1 inch finished tread, and subtract your upper finished flooring material thickness, in this case 3/4 inch hardwood. That will give you a dimension of 8 3/8 inches down from the upper subfloor. You may be asking about the rest of the risers in the middle of the stringer. Each riser will get the same subtread and finished tread. So each intermediate step height or unit rise will not change from the installation of the subtread and the finished tread. When we cut our stringer, we cut to our unit rise and our unit run, in this case 7 3/8 inches. When we go to install our subtread and finished tread, since we're installing the same materials on each of the treads, the net effect is 0. So we still end up with our unit rise of 7 3/8 after we install our subtreads and finished treads. What if my stringer doesn't fit? By accurately calculating the bottom riser height and laying out and cutting that dimension, the top of the stringer should land on the mark you made on your hanger board. If it doesn't, check your stringer layout to make sure you accurately set up your framing square jig. If that's correct, then you may need to adjust the position of your kicker board. If you want to raise the top of your stringer, you want to move your kicker board closer to the hanger board. This will change the angle slightly and push the top of the stringer up. If you want to lower the top of your stringer, then move the kicker board away from the hanger board. This will make the angle shallower and pull the top of the stair down slightly. In review, here are the steps to guarantee an accurately built stair when different materials are installed on the lower floor, the treads, and the upper floor. We start by calculating our total finished rise. Once we've calculated our total finished rise, then we can design and calculate the stair. Do not calculate the stair based on the subfloor to subfloor rise. Be sure to make a sketch so you can keep track and visualize the various thicknesses on each of the parts. Once we've designed and calculated our stair, we can calculate the bottom riser height. Use the formula on the previous slide to calculate that bottom riser height. We can also calculate, or we can lay out, the top of the stringer on the hanger board. And then we can lay out and test fit our stringer. Remember, if you need to move your stringer up or down, moving the kicker board will change the angle slightly and change the position of the top of the stringer. Your assignments for Unit 2 are to complete the written assignment for Unit 2, Lesson 1 and turn it into your instructor for grading. And then, upon successful completion of the written assignment, you can complete Labs 1 and 2 for Unit 2.